Alright, Bruchim Abayim, welcome everyone. We just got out of Yom Kippur last night. An amazing day of joy. The great joy of being free of our sins. And I want to share a little bit the drasha that I delivered on before Yizkor yesterday. Unfortunately, our Rav Shlita was not able to come to this medrash. She was at his daughter's house, so I had to pinch hit, fill in the holiest day of the year. There's a lot of work into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, making sure we had a minyan. We had to bring people, pay people, it was all kinds of things, pay for accommodations. It was all min hashamayim. And on Rosh Hashanah, we discussed issues about divine providence. So by Yom Kippur, I discussed a little bit the problems with that. Let's examine these ideas. So I'll start with a joke, even though when I said the drush, I didn't start with the joke. It's one of Rabbi Fishbake's jokes. There was a fellow, I'll say it as if it was me. I saw someone smoking 2 cigarettes. I said, George, it's not enough one? He said, no. I want to show unity with my compatriots. A friend of mine, he's in prison, he can't smoke. They won't let him have cigarettes anymore. So I'm smoking 2 cigarettes, one for me, one for him. I said, okay, I work in a prison, maybe I'll visit him. So then I see George a few weeks later. I said, George, your friend got out of jail, you're only smoking 1 cigarette. He said, no, I quit smoking. But there's something to this. Maybe not smoking 2 cigarettes and quitting smoking by only smoking 1. But this idea of being together and one with everyone. As one of the people there one of the people there at the shul mentioned that in English, Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. So it's a day of at-one-ment, he said, if you take apart the words. And we're at one. We're at one with God and at one with each other. We have to face the challenges that are involved in that. So I mentioned how the Rebbe Melech, when he went into self-imposed exile, that's how I began the drasha. The Rebbe Melech, he would wake up when he was a guest in someone's house, they didn't know who he was, and he would wake up at midnight and say Tikkun Chatzos, and before Tikkun Chatzos you're supposed to say Vidoy, instead of just only saying the liturgical confession that we have. He went, as one should, and discussed the various sins. And mentioned Melech, the Zoygatin, Melech did this, Melech did that. And he said, and what he confessed were not the sins that he himself actually committed.
In a quarter mile, County Road 114 turns slightly left and becomes New York 97 South.
The sins that his host committed. And the way I heard it explained, I remember hearing it from Ula Marav, Rabbi Friedman in Queens, hearing it from Rabbi Weinberger, from Woodmere, from Simeo Zilberberg, from Shalayim, other tzaddikim. It was nicht gewesen kein Spiel. This wasn't a game. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to demonstrate through my psychic abilities I know the sins that this person did, and make him feel bad by confessing them as though I did them. No. But rather, by virtue of the fact that through his psychic abilities he was aware of this person's sins, it reflected a problem within himself.
County Road 114 turns slightly left and becomes New York 97 South, then slight right onto Newburgh Turnpike.
So it reminds me of...
Continue for 17 miles.
And so when he was confessing the sins, he was confessing what was actually within him. I mean, even though he didn't physically commit those sins, but by virtue of the fact that he could even see such a sin on someone else, even psychically, reflected a problem within himself and a responsibility within himself. So essentially that's where we're holding. And not only that, but there's this whole idea of judge not lest ye be judged, the world says. It comes down...
Welcome to Pennsylvania.
...into a deeper idea. The Baal Shem Tov and Nachman Bresler and other tzaddikim explained. There's a story in the Bible about King David after he committed the sin with Bathsheba. Our sages teach him wasn't really a sin, but he confesses a sin. We see it in Psalm 51. And there in Samuel, that the prophet Nathan approached him and told him a parable about a rich man with many sheep who stole one sheep from a poor man who had only one sheep. And Nathan asked David to judge this man, and he said, "You are that man." When David said that he is deserving of death, he said, "You are that man." And I remember I used to be a guest lecturer in a college class. The professor would often express how amazing that is. At any other place in the ancient world, such a thing as a prophet telling the king such a thing, the prophet would lose his head. But here David was humbled because he knew he had a king above him. But when we say judge not lest ye be judged, it's a deeper thing, that whatever judgment we pass on to others, that's the judgment we are passing on to ourselves. And when we see someone else, we should try to look on them with mercy. So all this being said, when we recite the Vidoi, we recite the confession on Yom Kippur, it isn't I have sinned, but rather we are guilty. Al Shamnu, Bogadnu, Al Chet Shechatanu, for the sin that we committed. Because there's a communal responsibility that we have. So when it's for the sin that we committed, Oshamnu, Bogadnu, Gozalnu, we sinned, we're guilty, we stole, etc., etc. because we bear a certain responsibility for what everybody else does. And when we confess the sins, we are confessing for the other people too. Like I said, I work in a prison, and I know people who committed some of the worst possible sins in the world. And so when we're confessing, I'm confessing their sins, they're confessing my sins, and we have that sense of at-one-ment, that we're all together at one. We talk often about being at one with God. And we spoke before about God's divine providence, about how God runs everything even to the subatomic level. So at this time when we're trying to be at one with all of our friends, all of our neighbors, our families, even our enemies, with the angels in heaven and with the demons below, and with everything in the universe, all unified, praising God, we're also at one with God, who runs everything with total divine providence and omniscience and sovereignty. But of course there's a problem with that. Saber Billy B. Yitzkor and Sir Sasha Berditchev, we have to mention to arouse divine mercy by mentioning this saint. That one night, like Kol Nidre, he wouldn't start until one man, he walked into the shul, a tailor. He said, now we can start davening. The person we need is here. So what's this? They asked, what's the story with this man? He said like this, he said, I'm supposed to eat and drink before Yom Kippur, and I ate some fish, and I'm supposed to make l'chaim, and I want to wish the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Master of the Universe, l'chaim. I want to wish a toast to the Almighty. But I started saying to myself, I said, God, I of course want to implore you for forgiveness, and I've done all kinds of horrible sins this year, and I have to beg for your forgiveness. But you, God, also did all kinds of things. You took parents away from their children and left them orphans, and children away from their parents, impoverished people. All kinds of horrible things happen in the world, even to me. Hearing this story, just take a side note. I remember I also worked as a chaplain in a mental hospital, and there was a girl from a Hasidic family, very intelligent young woman, who attempted suicide and was maimed by this suicide attempt. And one of the things she once brought up at one time was talking at length about all the horrors that exist in the world, and how God bears some responsibility for such things, especially if He's totally omniscient and provident and sovereign. How do all these people, innocent children, suffer? And it's a problem a lot of people have theologically, and I don't have any answer for it. But there's an answer in this story. That this tailor in Berditchev, he said, Almighty God, here's the deal. If you forgive me, I'll forgive you. L'chaim, l'chaim. And he told the story over, and the way that Rabbi Zevin tells the story in the Hasidic tales is that was the type of energy that was needed for our Yom Kippur. But I remember, and it's funny because there's the movie A Life Apart. You can find it on YouTube, the PBS documentary, narrated by Leonard Nimoy. And Nimoy said, in the voice of the Berditchever, "Why did you leave God off so easily? With such an argument, you could have brought Mashiach." And I mentioned that later. One of the Balabatim there said he's in the appliance business and he once installed a television in Leonard Nimoy's house. Got to meet him. But anyway, with all this being said, it's funny, there's a chassan today. It's a chassan I hope to go to. He also met Leonard Nimoy. Anyway, mention what the Tanya says, that when we commit a sin, we're taking the king with his crown and all his garments, putting his head in the toilet. In the time of the Baal Tanya, they didn't have flush toilets, if you understand what I'm saying. But we're all together. Not just all of humanity and even the angels and the animals and the spirits and all the different beings in the world. But that sense of at one, we're at one with God. And the truth is, maybe we don't have the power to forgive God, but God can give us the power to forgive Him, and He has the power to forgive us, and we have to believe in the power of forgiveness. And like the Berditchever said, that's what could bring Mashiach. And so we have to have the audacity. That's why I forgot to mention that I said by Kol Nidre, the audacity we have to have in prayer to pray for everything. And because we have to understand that God's in control. And everything is Him. There's nothing but Him. And what I mentioned afterwards was that the Pizetzner explains that what's the Chiddush of Hasidus? What did the Hasidic movement add that was not present earlier? He said like this: the earlier Kabbalists said all of the worlds are vessels filled with the light of God. But what the Baal Shem Tov revealed was that the walls of the vessels themselves are the light of God. There's nothing other than God in the whole universe. And as difficult as it is for us to understand and to grasp because of the things that exist in this world, we can forgive God, and if God will forgive us, and God will give us the power to forgive Him and send Mashiach. Gemar Tov to everybody. I said it maybe a little worse, a little better, but I'm putting on the video the way it came out now. Driving, a little bit distracted, have a little bit of allergies, heading to go to a wedding, and I hope I'm not sneezing and blowing my nose in the middle of the ceremony. But here we are. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later. Maybe I'll also say over a shtickle what we said by Darton, by Neela. How to turn this